Good morning, everyone. We'll call today's Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Vice Chair Sonier. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
Chair Clerk Hubbard.
Here.
Alderman Cone. Vice Chair Sonier. We have 4 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, we'll accept the motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, December 16th, 2024.
So moved.
So second.
It was moved by Alderwoman Schweitzer and seconded by Alderman Aldridge that we approve the minutes from Tuesday, December 16th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier. Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clerk Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Vice Chair Sonier. We have 4 aye votes.
All right, with that, we successfully approved the minutes from Tuesday, December 16th, 2024. As we've done in the past, we're going to move the agenda around out of respect for some of our volunteers for the city of St. Louis and their time. And today we have we're going to skip to item number 2, the mayoral's appointments to the St. Louis Housing Authority Commission. Madam Clerk, can you read the summary and announce this appointee that's here today?
Okay. Item number 2, mayoral appointments to the St. Louis Housing Authority Commission. The committee will discuss the mayor's appointment to the commissioners of the Housing Authority of the City of St. Louis, Rachel D. Zoza.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for being here this morning. Can you raise your right hand so I can swear you in? Can you raise your right hand?
Yep.
I didn't know if you could hear me or not. Do you swear to tell the whole? You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Rachel. Can you make sure I'm pronouncing your last name correctly? Can you say it for me?
Yeah, it's D'Souza.
D'Souza. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, with that, can you give us a little background on yourself, why you're interested in wanting to take on, first of all, thank you for your willingness to serve and serve the city this way, but what piques your interest and what draws you to wanting to serve on the Housing Authority?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in St. Louis. Since I moved back to St. Louis after college, have lived in the city and have watched the ways in which housing policy, both at the state and federal level, have impacted my neighbors, my community members, and their children. I think as we go into a new political cycle with a lot of different priorities from the federal government that have been stated by the incoming administration. It's going to be important for residents who care about their communities and care about their neighbors to be a part of a group that helps us use our dollars in the best way possible. So very excited at this opportunity to be able to support my city.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to go through the committee members, see if they have questions for you. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I read your resume and it sounds like you have a lot of experience in development and in nonprofits in general. So I appreciate you bringing this this background to the city of St. Louis and serving in this capacity. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Alderman Browning.
Thank you, and thank you for being willing to serve. I think our our residences that are underneath the housing authority need all the help they can get, and we certainly have seen some struggles. It seems like your background is well suited to addressing some of those struggles. So I'm eager to see just what you can do, and I really, again, appreciate your willingness to serve. I don't have any questions for you. I just want to thank you for your willingness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. Hello, Mr. Souza. Also,
there.
thank you for willing to serve. I know this is your first appointee or first appointment, if I'm correct, to like the city of St. Louis in a appointment or a commissioner or board. And you definitely choosing a big one. And I think, like my colleague said, I did see your resume. I'm glad you was able to make it so that we can just hear from you. Think you have a stellar resume that could be extremely beneficial to, I think, a board that's extremely important when it comes to housing in the city of St. Louis. So whatever way I can be a support or this HUD's committee can be a support, please let us know. And thank you for serving.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words.
Vice Chair Sanye.
Hi, Mr. Souza. I don't have any questions either. I just commend you for your service and echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Thank you for sending your records over. And I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the land of public housing and that landscape over the next few years. So I'm glad that we can get folks who are experienced and really care about, quality. And I'm looking forward to your service there.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, that was quick and easy. Thank you so much again for being here this morning and for your willingness to serve this way. We all have direct, connections to our constituents in our public house, in our housing space. I'll just say it like that, in the different levels and aspects of it. And we always want to be able to respond to them. And we know that a lot of those responses and networks comes out of the work of the housing authority. So it's been said here, it's very important. And we honor and thank you for your willingness to serve this way. With that, I'll accept the motion to approve the mayor's appointment of Ms. D'Souza to the St. Louis Housing Authority Commission.
Second.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderwoman Schweitzer. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clerk Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. We have 5 aye votes.
All right, with that, we've approved the appointment of Ms. Rachel D'Souza to the St. Louis Housing Authority Commissioner. Thank you, Commission. Thank you again so much for your service. And this will move forward on this coming Friday and be finally approved on the floor in our full board meeting.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, then we'll move now in the agenda to item number 1. Do we have people that are signed up online to speak, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I have some hands. I have 2 hands raised so far.
Okay. All right, if the hands that are raised, are they on this side where they can turn their camera on and I can swear them all in at the same time?
I'm sending them over now.
Okay. And we do have some in the room as well that are signed up to speak. What we'll do is just, I'm gonna, to save time, swear everyone in at the same time. So if you're here to speak, you can make sure you signed in on the speaker list, and then we'll have everyone raise their right hand after you signed in. And
Okay,
after we,
Alderwoman, those who had their hand raised on Zoom, they lowered their hand. So we just have those who are in the
okay.
in the chain.
Well, just let me make sure that for clarity, if you're online, we want to hear from you first and foremost. But in order for us to hear from you, you do have to have your camera on and you do have to be sworn. That was one of the reasons that it was important that we had and held this hearing today, was so that we could capture these comments so that we can use them in moving forward in forthcoming legislation. So this is a listening session. So this is no kind of condemnation or anything going on today. The important thing is that we have this public space held to hear from you. So please don't feel any kind of way uncomfortable about speaking publicly here. I know we say it, we might throw it around, it might seem cliche, but this absolutely is a safe space. And the intention is wholehearted to be able to hear from you all moving forward with this legislation. So with that, if we have people that are online that want to speak, you heard the order that you raise your hand and then you're moved over and we can swear you in. People in the room that have already been signed up and would like to speak, can you all raise your right hand and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. So what we're here for today is to intentionally hold this space to hear and take public comment on the St. Louis City's minority and owned business enterprise programming, the MWBE programming here in the city of St. Louis. We know there have been some changes to that. But here, this kind of programming comes with changes. This has been going on for 30 plus years. I was reminded of that this morning. That was just on paper, right? Prior to that, these fights and these things were going on in communities, in underserved communities for decades. So I think this is a good step. We are here to listen as the HUD's committee. Also online, SLDC, which is the department that is tasked with this programming here in the city of St. Louis, is listening, and the mayor's administration is listening. So with that, we will again remind you that this didn't start today and it doesn't end today. What we're doing is taking what we hear today and putting it with information that we've heard here. Even in HUDs, we heard in June of last year from the disparity study, and we saw on paper again from the King and from SLDC that there were some gaps in this programming here in the city of St. Louis. So this is an effort to get it right this time, to be ready for the next time, because again, we know that this work takes time. And so with that, we'll call up Madam Clerk or Mr. Clerk that's in the room. I'm not sure who will call up. Madam Clerk, I love this. If you're watching, you don't know, you haven't been down here, you don't know how this is a true hybrid meeting. Most hybrid meetings our clerk is here with us, but this is a true hybrid meeting. Our clerk is on hybrid. I love it. That's called adaptability. All right. So Madam Clerk, can you call up our first speaker?
Our first speaker is Yasset Elamine.
Is a button green on top of it? There we go. Thank you. Wait till it turns all the way green.
Listen.
Okay. It must mean I don't need it. Okay. Thank you.
Again, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Yafet. I am the Executive Director of MOCAN Construction and Contractors Assistance Center. I first and foremost, on behalf of our organization, would like to thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for convening this public hearing regarding the MWBE program. As you mentioned earlier today, this program has been established in the city of St. Louis since the city was sued for discrimination in 1989, and MOCAN worked very tirelessly with the city to establish the program that has been in effect for more than 30 years now. So we are proud to be in a city that has had a continual program to advance opportunities for minority and female businesses, and now what we know, other advancements for minority and female workers. We do understand that very soon this body will look into legislation that will codify again the ordinances that govern the MWBE programs. MOCAN has worked very closely with St. Louis Development Corporation and other entities in making our suggestions as to how we can improve the program. So today we're hopeful to talk about some of those things that we believe to be impediments in the growth of capacity for minority and female companies, but also to assist the city in helping to tweak, if you will, a program that has a long-standing relationship with the MWBE community. So to that, I'd like to indicate that we have made several suggestions to the city, but would like to talk about some of those areas that we believe to be challenged. And one of those is what we consider to be the building of capacity of minority and female businesses. We believe now that the city is looking to explore opportunities, grants funds. It has brought in ARPA dollars, that this is a great opportunity now for the city to invest in building capacity for minority and female businesses. To that extent, we still suffer from challenges with bonding, insurance. We suffer from challenges with administrative program management. We also suffer specifically from the lack of compliance on many of our projects. And let me say, if I can compare the city of St. Louis to Metropolitan Sewer District, which is also one of our quasi-governmental entities. To date, MSD has more direct support diversity staff than our entire city. And so it's one thing to say that we have goals in place and to say that we are supporting diversity. There's another thing to say that now we have the people in place to ensure that the goals that we put in place are being adhered to. I liken our staff and our program to having laws on the book without many police officers to enforce the laws. So it's no wonder why we see cases where people are now indicted as well as sent to jail for fraudulent activities relative to our program. Some of that could be stopped on the front end with adequate compliance staff in place. And so our recommendation to SLDC and to the city is to increase funding. We've asked for $10 million to be put into the city's the diversity program in order to assist with adequate compliance and monitoring, adequate business development. If you can look into the area of construction and understand that many of our construction business owners are tradesmen and tradeswomen. However, because of still systematic racism in the industry, they do not matriculate to foremen, supervisors, project managers. However, a tradesman may become a businessman overnight, particularly if he's lost his job. So to that extent, how can we as a city help to ensure that adequate educational measures are in place to help strengthen our business, particularly those minorities and females that we know have been ostracized from financing and other support. So we believe that because the city now has one-time dollars, that these funds could go a long way to help ensure now that our businesses have the capacity to grow with our program. It's a travesty to have goals, but not sometimes enough businesses to meet those goals in specific areas. So we believe that the city can and should put resources in place to assist that. We also looked at and provided recommendations to the city based upon proposed changes that could result in the count of MWBE participation and looking at minimizing that count to a per project basis. We would encourage the city, as you all paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Keene disparity study, to lean in close to the disparity study. Based upon the Richmond versus Croson's case that happened in 1980s, it indicated that we have to narrowly tailor our program in order to ensure that it can withstand legal scrutiny. What we see now from a national level is a tax on DEI programs nationally. We know our state, our Governor Parsons removed and did not sign the executive order again for MWBE businesses. So we see a national and a state attack on diversity programs. It is going to be paramount that our city continues the 30-year and moving it to 40 and 50 years. And the way that we do that is to ensure that our program is narrowly tailored and that it stands aside with our disparity study so that if it is challenged, we're able to defend our program and win. The last thing that the city should do is cower down for fear of a challenge. And so to that, I know that there are other suggestions from the city to go to race-neutral programs. However, we believe that, again, because your disparity study indicated that it was a disparity, that then the city would not be upholding its obligation to defend the study and to remedy the disparity. So if there's disparity in underutilization of minority businesses, the city should remedy that. If there's discrimination and disparity in the underutilization of female businesses, the city should remedy that, not cower down and go to a non-race conscious program because of fear of lawsuits. If that's the case, we look at where we would be if we had not challenged our educational systems, if we had not challenged discrimination in the past. We cannot cower down. So in closing, as the director of MOCAN, we continue to stand in support of working with this local administration. Our program here has withstood the test of time. It has been the longest single running public program with diversity in our region. We believe that it is because we've stood together to try to do things the right way. Is it a perfect program? By far, no, it is not. However, it is a significant start, and we have to continue to move forward to make sure that, that it stands strong. So with that, Madam Chairman, I thank you for allowing for us to have public testimony today. MOCAN submitted a 12-page document that outlined our concerns and areas that we believe could continue to advance the program. We look forward to working with you and the Board of Aldermen with the legislation that will be introduced that will continue to codify and support the program. If you have any questions, I will entertain them at this time.
I don't have any specific questions at this time. I'll see if my colleagues do.
Questions. I do appreciate you coming today and sharing all that information, and that there's a document version as well. That'll be very helpful. Thank you.
Alderman Browning.
Thank you. Just one question. So you mentioned the ability to track and make sure we are enforcing current requirements that exist. Are you experiencing on your end a lack of available jobs or jobs that require MBE or WBE participation?
Are we experiencing a lack of available jobs? No,
yeah,
I don't.
That's my, yeah.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the question. We are seeing construction increase in the city of St. Louis and the surrounding area. I would say that it's questionable as to if those jobs are meeting the goals, if those companies are making the efforts toward ensuring that the goals are met, and also if there is adequate compliance and monitoring to ensure that those companies on the job that are minorities and females are there, that they're getting the monies that they are contracted for, that they're performing commercially useful functions, and that they are growing, and that they are protected when they get on these jobs versus being able to. I spoke with the company early this morning, and he told me, he said, can you believe even last week I was called to bid a job, and then I asked the gentleman who called me, when did the job bid, and he said tomorrow. So those types of actions where companies are able to check a box to say that I did make the efforts to reach out, and I reached out to this company, and we call it paper participation. So clearly that company was not trying to provide a fair opportunity for participation when they called a day before the bid was due and asked that company to bid it. And there are already rules that we have on the books that says that it has to be at least 21 days. But of course, if the cop is on the side of the road asleep, what happens? Everybody's speeding by, breaking the laws. So we definitely believe that there are jobs available. We do believe that there are challenges with minorities and females having access to the jobs and then being awarded those jobs.
And I'm just curious, how many MBEs and WBEs are in this space? Do you have a general idea of like what other entities exist?
I think that that's growing. I believe that a great way to get that is to connect with our license collector's office. Several years ago, she did have a MWBE bid for contractors, and there were hundreds of contractors that were there. I know our city has more than 600 certified MWBEs in the construction space. However, there are various challenges between those companies getting opportunities. Some are union, some are not union. So when you start to look at the other hurdles that are put in place to lessen the pool, it varies based upon the other restrictions that may be placed on the jobs.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Alderman Browning.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. No questions. I also received the document, Ms. Elamine, you sent over. I just want to thank you for being here and your history and experience in talking about such an important issue. You did mention, MOCAN is kind of one of a kind here in the city of St. Louis. You said it's not perfect, but I will say, seeing firsthand the work that MOCAN does and moving people of color, women and men into the construction field is impeccable. And I just want to thank you for your leadership with MOCAN and all the individuals that have been part of that. I've seen firsthand how this program, I think, really needs to be replicated, and it needs to be more MOCANs all throughout the city of St. Louis, throughout this state. So thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, Alderman Aldridge, for letting everybody know I'm getting old in this space. Thank you.
Vice Chair Sanye.
Hi. I just want to start first by thanking you for your advocacy. You are such a strong voice. To be honest, these conversations, especially in this way, on this type of level, is very new to me. But every time I go and have a conversation with someone or this comes up, your name comes up. And so I just want to start by thanking you for being, a very fierce, bold voice. I don't think that power concedes itself. I think you always have to have people who are directly in the field to say these are the barriers and these are the challenges. And so just thank you for uplifting your voice, so that we can have minority and women businesses actually be able to benefit from the ordinances and the laws put on the books. I do have a few questions. I was just curious, I know even in your document and here you referenced a lot of basically suggesting that a real part of the issue with compliance with the ordinances that are on the books as it stands is staffing. Could you talk a little bit about the staffing that I know you said that in this other place there was, much more staff overall, but is there any specific staffing roles or specific staffing recommendations that you think need to happen, and especially keeping in mind just the realisticness of recruitment and capacity building and challenges that exist right now? I'm just curious about what positions you would say the city might want to prioritize when we're trying to build that support for compliance.
And thank you for the question, Alderwoman Saunier. I would first of all like to say that I believe my ability to be a voice is firsthand because my father was a minority contractor. So I grew up in a family that existed and sisters that were able to go to college and benefit from that because my father was a tradesman and ultimately started his own company in the space. So it's something that I know firsthand from my own personal experience, that the impact of giving companies an opportunity to participate, how it impacts families. So from that position, I'm just speaking to what I know to be a part of my own life, so it comes a lot easier. But thank you for the question. In the document, I also spoke about and referenced advancing the city's compliance. And some of it, as Alderman Aldridge spoke about, is really about having knowledge and understanding in the space. Understanding when you look at SLDCs, turnover as it relates to leadership in the MWBE area. Most of the people there are under 10 years in the space, even 5. And so when you look at any other area of construction or procurement, you have people that have been in that space for many, many years who are experts in it. It should not stop with the diversity. We shouldn't just say because a person is a female or of color that now they're able to be experts on diversity and lead our program. And we need to ensure that we have adequate people who are trained in the space to be able to govern a program that impacts so many lives, from minority workers also to minority businesses. So we believe that the staff should at a minimum double, and that the areas such as compliance should have its own manager and its own staff. The old ordinance focuses in on going out to jobs, doing site visits on those jobs. If we were to poll the number of companies, minorities that do business with us, ask them when has the last time they've seen someone come out to the job to verify that they were there, that called them to verify that they got paid, to ensure that things were fair and equitable, that checked the bids to ensure that their bids aren't being bid shopped. So there are laws on the books that, because we have very little staff, they are unable to do it. That's the assumption we're going to make. We're not going to say that they don't want to do it. However, increasing the staff, doubling the staff, separating compliance from certifications, ensuring that there's adequate compliance and certification entity to assist with our businesses help. So if we have 6 now, we're encouraging the city to, at a minimum, double that to 12. Also look at contracting out those additional services to help improve the accuracy. There are people in our community that have done monitoring and compliances for multi-million-dollar projects. We should give them opportunities to partner with the city and help us do a good job of making sure that people who live in our city work on our projects, because if they live here, they work here, guess where they're going to spend their money? Back to the place where they live. So there are things that I believe we can do to strengthen our own economy, and it starts with shoring up our MWBE program, our minority and female workforce program, to ensure that people who are paying taxes here get an opportunity to benefit directly from the taxes that they pay.
Thank you. My last question is just about on the guards of compliance and legislation. A lot of times penalties are part of that conversation, and I was just curious if you, what other sorts of penalties have you maybe seen in other places, or what other penalties do you think would be helpful for the city of St. Louis to put into place for instances when we find that people are not being compliant or have misrepresented their numbers dishonestly?
Great question, thank you. I've been the executive director of MOCAN since 2008. I've seen our city provide, or you penalize a contractor by withholding their tax abatement once. I believe that we have adequate laws on the books. However, we are not enforcing them. We've seen repeatedly goals that go unmet on projects, and people just skirt off with the dollars. So part of this is really holding people accountable. In our current legislation, it says that you can be disbarred for up to 1 year. It says that you can be penalized with a monetary penalty. Those haven't occurred on a large basis. So if people are unable to make the goals, if people do not make the goals, if they do not provide sufficient outreach to include companies, the penalty is minimum at any. So other places, Illinois, for example, if the goal was 25% and you only made 12, the other 13% is charged to you. You have to give that back to the state, back to the entity. So the city of St. Louis could do the same. However short you are on the goals, if in fact it is determined that capacity was there, we're not talking about penalizing people where there is no capacity. So if the capacity in elevators is not there and the goal is 25%, we should not penalize a company to make something that was not there. They should get a waiver. And we have those in process. But for the amount of dollars that the minority community loses, they should have to pay for that. That should go back into the pot, and that should go for capacity building, workforce development, training. It should go back into those communities that have suffered because the goals haven't been met. Let me say this, Alderwoman. When we provide tips, when we provide tax abatements, when we provide bonds, we are now taking those dollars away from our local citizens. We're taking them away from our local schools, our streets, our police departments. So people should have to pay. So we're saying, hey, we're going to give you a tax abatement and you don't make the goals, we should pay twice. We're giving you a tip, our students in our schools should pay twice. No, those same dollars now should go back to now helping those people to advance themselves. So I think we can look right across the water to the Free State and look at what they're doing and use that as examples as to what we can be doing here. Make people pay for not including us, and we will stop the non-inclusion of our community.
Thank you. That completes my questions. Thank you for being before us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is online, and it is Dory Harris.
Mr. Harris, is it Mrs. or Mr. Harris?
It's
Dory.
Miss.
Mrs. Harris?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for being here today. Can you turn your camera on so I can swear you in?
Okay, there I am.
There we go. Okay. How you doing, Mrs. Harris? Can you
doing
raise your
fine.
right hand and
Yes,
swear
ma'am.
to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, thank you for being here this morning. Please proceed.
All right, I want to thank everybody for letting me speak. I just want to, I'm coming behind Yafet, which I'm totally, she pretty much put it, pretty much said it all, but I'm going to speak as a contract, as a MWBE contractor. I started out in 1987 as a contractor. And I am a member of MOCAN, and I'm a member of APCA. And I just want to say 90% of my work is MWBE, NDBE. And it's not because we don't bid work that don't require the participation. It's because that's the only place they use us. And if with this program, it need I guess to raise it up, or what Yafet was saying, put more people in place that's got the knowledge. I mean, at one time, and I'm not used to being I'm used to running a construction company. I actually worked out in the field, so I'm used to running a company. But at one time, it was a contractor owed us money. I called down to the city, and they told me to call Department of Labor to get my money, which was not correct. You don't call Department of Labor to get paid, which to me, when I first started in 1987, I started with MOCAN, and MOCAN helped me to get started. It was a lot more support than right now. I mean, we don't have any support as a contractor. So I just wanna I just wanted to come on and kind of express how important the program is and how important it is to lift it up or put more money into it, or more people into doing it. I mean, I get more support out at St. Louis, like MSD, because they got more people out there. Even St. Louis County, that's got that's got a smaller community, but got more staff. I want to say that got a lot more staff than what St. Louis City has. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Harrison. Thank you for making sure that we shared that, that perspective. That's a very important perspective. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Harris? All right. Thank you so much. If you think of anything else, because I know how sometimes this happens, especially when you said that this is not your typical space, I want to tell you, you did a
No.
great job. You did a great job. And let me tell you something. Why somebody like me would want to most importantly hear from somebody like you is because you are closest to the problem, which means you are closest to the solution. So thank you for being here, Ms. Harrison. Again, if you think of anything else, feel free to reach out.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.
The next speakers is Adolphus Pruitt.
Good morning, Mr. Pruitt. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Adolphus Pruitt. I'm the president of the St. Louis City NAACP, a resident of Ward 9. As a matter of fact, the NAACP offices have been in Ward 9 when it was 28, and before then we've been there well over 43 years, so we're very familiar with the neighborhood. I sent a couple of things in writing. I want to just speak to one. If you look at the document we sent where we talked about what has happened in the past 10 years from the advocacy standpoint in this area for us, we pointed out that a little bit more than $3.4 billion that went to MWBEs from any number of sources. And we speak to that because the primary reason is, one, we want to make sure that everybody understands, that the committee understands we have, oh my God, over 20 years experience in looking at these programs, even more in help writing them. We were the primary author of the over $5 billion CBA that MSD has, that we operating under, $2 billion CBA that St. Louis University and Midtown has that we're operating under. We helped co-author and write the MBE program and ordinance for St. Louis County, their first one in over 200 years. We helped develop the MBE participation program for the Missouri Housing Development Commission that did not exist prior to us getting involved. We also did the same for the Missouri Development Finance Board. So we're very familiar with writing these documents, looking at these programs, and having some input in it. And as you can see from the results, that at minimum, dollars are being delivered, but not at the rate that we would hope for. I only want to talk about two things in particular, because we've worked in partnership with MOCAN for the past, 15 years on most of this stuff. And so she said a lot of things that we would have talked about. But there's two things I want to bring up that really raise some concerns. I know there's been some discussion about adding some additional things to the workforce requirement that would virtually require that anybody that does contracts under the City of St. Louis or under the MBE program for participation, that they would be had to be a union contractor. You know, I would remind the city to go back and look at their workforce study, which demonstrates that at minimum 20% in most cases or greater of the workforce was African American on those projects, when yet only 6% of the union membership is African American. So there's no way in the world labor provided all of that workforce. It was the fact that we had minority contractors who were non-union, who had opportunity to work on these jobs. If you turn around and put anything in writing that would dictate that for not going forward, all contracts we had to go to contractors who are affiliated with union or labor programs, then you're going to see those numbers drop. They're going to go by the wayside, and you're going to hear a lot of noise coming from us on that issue. It is no way in the world that African-American workers can survive under that sort of scrutiny. It just won't work. The other thing is that we have a a system in the city of St. Louis that should foster and grow the experience and the participation of minority contractors, especially in public incentivized projects. And I'm gonna tell you a story why that is such a significant problem right now today. The city let out a contract, a bid, to build a health center over in South St. Louis. And within the language, it had in there that all fabricators and erectors had to be AISC certified. It's a certification. There is not a minority or female AISC certified contractor in the state of Missouri. Not even Midwest. There's one up in Chicago. None as far east as Indianapolis. None as far west as Wichita may be the first place you can find somebody with that certification. Which means that any project that's been incentivized by the city or let by BPS that provided for steel erection, that no African American, no woman was going to get that money. It was not going to happen simply because of that. When it came to our attention, we wrote both BPS and SLDC and said, this is a problem. It is something that needs to be addressed. We get a letter back that basically says in so many words, no, we're not going to eliminate that language. And what we will do is help whatever minority or woman that wants to get that certification, we'll help them get the certification. In many ways, that was an insult to any African American, any female that is operating in that business right now today. It's not an issue that they need clerical or administrative help to apply for certification. The issue is that the certification says that in order to get it, you have to be in business for a minimum of 10 years. We have people who can do that work, have been doing that work, and companies are 8 years old, 7 years old, 5 years old. So they couldn't get the certification, not because they don't have the skill set, not because they don't qualify. It's simply in that time range. But then to make insult worse, then the letter also said, well, we don't want to do it for safety reasons. Which means that, oh, without that certification, you mean that minority contractor or that female contractor, they're not safe. They don't have the ability to do the work. Unfortunately, what they don't know, and what we try to explain to them, and then they cut off all communication on the subject matter. What we try to explain to them is that the bridges that they cross that are built by the state or the federal government does not require that certification for erectors. I can't think of anything more safe or requirement to be safe than crossing a bridge over this river or any highway viaduct. But these contractors, we know, without that certification, are able to do those jobs and are doing them and have been doing them for years. But to say that for safety reasons, we can't give it to them because they don't have certification, that they ain't been in business 10 years old and can't get for that reason only, it's an insult. And it's definitely an insult to even cut off the discussion and talk about it. That is the problem we have with the program here in the city. It is, when I say ignorant, I'm not downgrading anybody's mental capacity. Well, I'm saying ignorant of the ability to think out the box and help resolve problems and do it in a way where everybody has an opportunity to participate in the work. Not to summarily say that because you have not been in business 10 years, but you've been doing it for the past 8. As a matter of fact, the young lady that just spoke, Dory Wines, D&K Welding, you look at her company is less than 10 years old. You look at her and experience everybody in the company, they all got 20 and 30 years worth of experience of doing this exact work. They got more experience. I guarantee you can find companies 10 years old that don't have employees with the number of years and experience that they have. But BPS, SLDC says we won't look at that. It doesn't matter. But we will help you get the certification. That's the problem we have with the program. All the other stuff, I gave it to you in writing. You know, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, but you know, if this board or any member of this board introduce ordinances that doesn't address the situation that I just talked about, doesn't have that flexibility, introduce an ordinance that requires that in order to do work on a public incentivized project in the city of St. Louis, your company has to be affiliated with a union, then we are going to do our best to raise as much holy hell about that ordinance as possible, because it is a detriment to the people we represent. And I appreciate your time. We'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you again, Mr. Pruitt. Does anyone have any questions?
Um,
Vice Chair Sanya?
I just want to clarify that I heard you correctly, that you seem to hold the position that you do not want to see any legislation that requires any type of unionization or anything along those lines.
Of the workforce, yes. If it's a union-only company, union-only shop that can work there. So normally what happens now is that the city let out a project, the contractor will set up 2 gates. Have a gate for union workers, union contractors to use, and a gate for non-union. If they say that if they come up with legislation that says, and I think it was introduced before, where any company that's not affiliated with a certified apprenticeship, Department of Labor apprenticeship program can no longer bid on these projects. Basically, that is a union company in order to be affiliated with that program, which means that you're now saying that any company that is non-union, and as a matter of fact, and some small companies couldn't even afford to run a certified Department of Labor apprenticeship program up under their shop. So that's the union's tactic of a PLA of locking out any other contractors who are non-union, so they can ensure that 100% of the workers on every job are union affiliated. That's the tactic. They've used it before, and they're trying to use it here in the city of St. Louis, and we're not going to stand for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Take care.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Eddie Hassan.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Hassan.
Okay. Madam Chairman, Board, thank you for allowing us to come before you this morning. I'm Eddie Hassan, past president of MOCAN for 21 years, past president, CEO for 21 years. I'd just like to be able to just carry you back a little bit. When we first got the consent decree from the city of St. Louis under Vincent Shamel, we were most certainly involved with being able to help draft the legislation. It was, where he signed a consent decree to be able to implement the program. And since Vince Shamel, every mayor since Vince Shamel have entered into a consent decree to be able to implement our program. And that program, when we first implemented the program, it was always a threat for that program to be challenged and be sued. But up to this date, we have not had a suit entered into against our program. Even though people have threatened to sue, we have not had a suit brought against the city of St. Louis about the program. And the only thing that I can say about that is this, along with everything that have been said, Mr. Jafet El-Amin, the executive director of MOCAN, Mr. Dolphus Pruitt, The bottom line on this, is that program was implemented because of the disparity that was taking place. And it's still a disparity. And the only thing that I would like to see implemented is the increase and the doubling down of efforts to make sure that all of the rules and regulations are followed, which they are not being done. And just like we implement every program in the city of St. Louis, it takes money. Every program in the city of St. Louis takes money. The only thing that we've been lacking on is putting money into a program to be able to help grow African American and minority businesses. And if we put money into helping growing that minority business and helping making sure that they're getting the support services they need to grow those businesses, then we're going to have more businesses contributing to the tax base of the city of St. Louis. And the only thing that I want to say about when we talk about union, I support union, but union don't support us to the degree that they should support us. That's why the numbers of workers on these union projects is so low. When they ask for a PLA or a union-only project, then we should be asking to make sure that our residents are employed at the degree that it should be employed, at 25%, 5% females across the board. If they want union, then we want inclusion. If they want to guarantee that they're union, then we want to guarantee that we got participation at the level that it should be. And we're looking for those contractors and those unions to make sure that happens. The reason why we filed suit against the city in the first place was because of the discrimination that the union was employing and being able to employ African Americans on these projects, and the tactics that the AGC was employing to make sure that we were not included. So we want to be able to see more enforcement. We want to see more money put into a program. We want to be able to see more workers from the city of St. Louis on all of these projects as we move forward. And you'll be able to see crime go down. You'll be able to see black businesses be able to grow and be able to pay more into the tax base. And if we support that, then the whole city gonna be better off as a result of that. Over the last, here we are right now, 30-some years later, having the same conversation that we should not be having in this period of time, talking about participation. It's really an indictment on the city for us to be here today having this kind of conversation about participation. We should have grown so many businesses, African American businesses and female businesses, to the point that we should be applauding ourselves on the success that we've had. But we can't do that because we have not implemented the program to the greatest degree. So my whole thing is that anything that we do got to be about enhancing what we have. And we cannot operate under fear of a lawsuit. Every day you operate this city, you're under fear of some kind of lawsuit. So why focus on a lawsuit that's coming against a program that's all about enhancing and growing African American businesses and creating jobs for African American and female workers on these projects? So I'm asking you to be able to double down on our efforts to make sure that our program is in fact the kind of program that we all can be proud of and that we all can clap our hands at the end of the day about what we've been able to achieve. When you look at the numbers as it relates to inclusion and the goals on these projects, they have not been met. And we got developers want to come in and not be able to pay attention to the residents of the city of St. Louis, or to the business in the city of St. Louis. Only thing they want is tax abatement. They want whatever they can get out of it and be able to line their pockets and not be able to give back to the community that they should be giving back to. I think that Yafet made the case real clearly and distinctly, and I'm very proud of what she's been able to do, and we've been doing this for a long time. I am the contractor that she talked about. I am the father of Yafet El-Amin, and I'm the contractor who struggled and dealt with the unions back in the day. I was a union contractor. Let me tell you about a union contractor, just a little story. I was working on a project, and when you work on a Saturday overtime, you have to get a permit to be able to have your men working, to make sure you sign up with the unions, to be able to make sure that you're going to pay the time and a half or the double time or whatever it is. We were on this project, and I never will forget it. The BA was on his way out of town, he said. Someone gave him a call and said we was working. and accused us of not having got a permit. He turned around and came to the job and told my workers on the job that if they continue to work, then they might be excommunicated from the union. And I told him, Arlie Langhorst at the time, I told him, I said, we got a permit, but you didn't have all of these situations that you could call to check. He told my men, if I didn't have a permit and they continued to work, they took a chance to be able to get excommunicated. All my men walked off their job. But I had got a permit to show you how sometimes the union work against you. That's why we got to have open doors for individuals who don't want to be involved in the union, who got men and women that work for them, getting the same opportunity that the union workers get. They pay taxes, they taxpayers, they should have opportunity to be able to have an opportunity to be able to work on all these jobs that the city most certainly finance. So with that, I'd just like to be able to say to you that we need to double down on our efforts to make sure that we get a good product, that we get a good effort from the people who's supposed to be implementing this, and we got to be able to put a little bit more effort and money into making sure that we're getting what we're supposed to have. So that's all I have to say at this point. I'm going to support whatever it is that's going to come to benefit minority contractors and minority workers and female workers on these projects. And that's what we've been doing all of these years, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So if there's any questions, I'll take them.
Thank you again, Ms. Hassan. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Wally Amusa.
Thank you for being here this morning, Mr. Amus. I mean, well, this afternoon now.
Yes.
You know, I like to brag. I'm your older lady, so I'm going to make sure I say that I'm Mr. Amusa's older lady, too.
My older woman, Ward 10. I'm so glad to be here today. I also want to extend Happy New Year to all the persons that are listening to this or participating in this hearing, especially Alderman Browning, whom I had the pleasure of running into when he was running for election, and we had a polling place encounter. But I'm here today to address something that's very, very important to the city of St. Louis. Okay. My name is Wale Amusa, and I'm a consultant to the construction industry. I'm the CEO of a company named Adexo USA, and have been in business for the last 29 years. Before that, I was an administrative assistant to the first Black mayor of the city of St. Louis. And before that, I was a compliance officer for the city of St. Louis at SLDC, where for 2.5 years, along with Jack Thomas and several other people, we helped to put together the protocols and the program for the MWBE participation for the city of St. Louis back in 1991, 92, and 93, around that time. And it's interesting that we had, as part of our audience today, Miss Dory Harris, because when I was a compliance officer for the city of St. Louis, there was a particular case involving her company, her previous company called DKW. She was listed as a participant on a project. The company the prime contractor chose not to use a company and self-perform the work. And Ms. Dory came to SLDC back in those days and said, look, I was listed, I was supposed to do the work, they didn't call me, they did the work, and they're now saying that they were not going to pay her. And I tell you what we did back then. We made that company pay Ms. Dory Weiss, Ms. Dory Harris, the profit that she would have made on that job, even though they did her job. That's what compliance speaks to. The fact is that we're talking about money, and in this country, sometimes people commit crimes, they defraud programs, and as long as they get away with it, nobody really challenges them. What we have today is that programs like you have in the city of St. Louis are under attack. Right-wing politicians have found that they can garner a lot of votes by blowing a lot of dog whistles, basically promoting racism, attacking all the gains that have been made through years and decades of struggle and fights, blood, sweat, and tears of generations gone by and generations that are still here. And today in 2025, there are those who want to roll back the clock to the 1950s or even before then. They want to destroy all the gains that have been made. And I tell you this, people have a right to want to go back to Jim Crow if that's what they want to do. But I'm here to tell you that this generation of African Americans and progressive politicians in this country today, we're not going back. They have a right to go, but we're not going with them. The same message applies to the city of St. Louis. It doesn't make sense to start talking about having new legislation to address issues that have been addressed over 50 years of intensive struggle, of blood, sweat, and tears by people in this community. We are not going back. We expect the city of St. Louis to stand up. Whoever it is that wants to fight or that wants to destroy these programs, let them show their face in the city of St. Louis. They're going to limp back because we're not going to go back. We're going to have to fight them. And those of us who have been in the field, we have seen that this program is not really just about money. It's about saving lives. When a man and woman can provide housing for their children, send them to school, send them to college, have vacations and stuff like that, they become not only productive in this community, but they create a platform for the next generations. So I'm not afraid of our new president that is coming in. I'm not afraid of Republicans in Jeff City because left to them, they're still fighting the Civil War. They think that they can get all their money from St. Louis and Kansas City, but not obligated to provide adequate and effective service and equal human rights to people in St. Louis and Kansas City. And I say we're sick of it. We're tired of it. We're not going to take it. So if they want to challenge the program that has never been challenged, I say, come on with it. That is why we do disparity studies, to justify that there is a need and the capacity and the capabilities are there. And if they want to go against that which is established law, let them bring it on. Because we've spent too much time making sure that the St. Louis City program complies with the most current, detailed study that you can do to justify setting goals. Of course, as a consultant in the industry, I am faced every year, every day, with the limits and the limitations of the program. There are problems, and there are problems. Some problems are real, and some are not so real. I speak to the ones that are not so real. We have a program that says 25% minority participation in workforce. We have a program that says women are going to get 11%, minorities are going to get the 22 or 23% in terms of business enterprise. But we have a practice in the industry that prevents effective realization of those goals. Because too many major contractors are issuing contracts to the prime and general contractors before they establish what the participation is supposed to be. Now, once a company gets a contract, it is very difficult for them to go back and say, oh, now we're going to try and figure out how to get a 23% minority participation, the 11% female participation, the 2% Hispanic participation, the 0.5% for Asian Americans, and the 0.5% for Native Americans. It doesn't happen once the prime contractor gets a contract in their hand. I would say that section of the program needs to be addressed. Do not issue a contract to a prime until you have secured what you are going to use, what you're going to issue to minorities and females and others in that particular. Otherwise, you make a mockery of the system. I'm talking about experience from the field. Project labor agreements. There are a lot fewer minorities who are signatory to union agreements than there are minority contractors. You can have 32 minority and female contractors. Only 3 of them may be signatory to a union agreement. So when you have a project labor agreement on a job, you have just shut out the opportunity for 20-something, 30 minorities in that particular sector to effectively bid on a job. I'm a union person. I've been a business agent for a union before. But declaring city projects, allowing them to be project labor agreements, is a total absurdity. Because on the one hand, you're saying they got to have 23% minority participation, 11% minority female participation, but in reality, when you do that, you automatically shut out about 90% of these companies that are certified by the city of St. Louis to do business on city projects. There is more. Workforce participation. We want 23% city resident participation. But guess what? The city of St. Louis does not invest in getting St. Louis City residents into apprenticeship programs so they can take advantage of that 23% city resident participation that you're saying. And when I talk about city residents, we're not just talking about African Americans, we're talking about any city resident, regardless of ethnicity, gender, or the station in life. That program sounds good on paper. In reality, it is totally dysfunctional. because the city is not preparing to put the resources there to train city residents to get into this immediate step to the American middle class. When you get a construction job, you go from zero, from poverty, straight into the great American middle class. You get high paid, you get great salaries, you get great benefits, you get pension, you get vacations, and all of that. But the city thinks it's all about just making a recommendation about what the goal should be. That goal, from a person who's been in the field as a consultant to the industry for almost 30 years, it makes a mockery of the city of St. Louis. Because right now, you can barely find St. Louis City residents to go into any of these trades, because the city of St. Louis does not invest. We have a program here, one of the best in the whole country, that trains pre-apprentices. At any given time, there are more St. Louis County residents taking advantage of that program in the city of St. Louis. That is the MOCAN Pre-Apprenticeship Training Program. We got that program when we shut down Highway 70 back in 2000 in order to establish that program. Today, St. Louis City has 23% minority participation, but guess what? How is the city of St. Louis investing in that program at MOCAN to train St. Louis City residents, not just African Americans? The MOCAN program is open to anybody, black, white, female, male, regardless. So part of what I will recommend today is this. St. Louis City needs to set a longitudinal goal. When I say longitudinal, not just a 1 year or 2 years, I'm talking about a 10, 15-year program, that we're going to invest in a program to train St. Louis City residents to enter construction. If we're not going to do that, we need to scrap the goal. Just scrap it, because it is totally nonsensical that you have a goal, but you are not investing. Right now, January the 6th, yesterday, I had a meeting with MOCAN Pre-Apprenticeship Program. And I told them the next class, which was supposed to start yesterday, should be made up of St. Louis City residents. And they're willing to do it. But guess what? It costs money for each class. I would like to ask every alderman in this city, send residents who are unemployed in your ward to participate in the MOCAN Pre-Apprenticeship Program, so they can be in line to enter into very good construction jobs in the city of St. Louis. I'll end it on this note. Please do not rush to change a program that that's been fought for over almost 50 years. Before the consent agreement, as Mr. Eddie Hassan spoke, before then, in 1989, 1990, there's been generations of African Americans who've been fighting for inclusion in the construction industry. Do not ignore the fact that, as committed as you may be, you are part of that. You're standing on the shoulders of those who came before you, who helped to put this program in place. Defend this program. The problem that the program has is twofold. Problem number one, the city of St. Louis does not have has not built a capacity to effectively implement a diversity program for the city of St. Louis. Maybe you have 1 or 2 or 3, 4 or 5. That is why sometimes people think it can be made vulnerable and it can be reversed. build the capacity, double or triple the people who are involved in doing diversity work in this city. And then you make it irreversible because it becomes a very intimate part of the fabric of life in the city of St. Louis. Not just a marginal program that people just make reference to every now and then. Make it something that we call it the centrality of diversity. We talk about it, but we don't do it. As a person who has been in the field for the last 30 years doing this particular work, I can tell you that what the governor of the state needs to know is that the city of St. Louis has the most robust, the most diverse, program to ensure the building of wealth and the saving of lives in this city than any other city in the entire country. That is a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Musa. Not sure if anybody has any questions. I'm sure everybody sees one. We know you will, Mr. Musa. We know you will. I was just going to say, I'm sure everybody sees why I'm so proud to serve as your alder lady, too. But I don't see anybody with their hands raised. So if anything does come up, we'll definitely make sure to connect you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Michael Bledsoe.
Hello, Madam Chairman, Alderwoman, persons of the City of St. Louis Board of Aldermen. My name is Michael Bledsoe, and I'm a second-generation painting contractor. For those of you who don't know, but you may know, you may have heard of my dad, Ether Bledsoe. He happened to be one of the founding fathers of the MOCAN organization. That organization was started back in 1974, and he was one of the most powerful persons that I know of that represented the minority contracting community. He was also very instrumental in being able to complete the larger projects in the city of St. Louis. Just to give you an idea of the type of magnitude that my dad's company was actually involved into through the minority and diversity and inclusion programs, through the program for the city of St. Louis, is he was very instrumental in completing the old post office in downtown St. Louis, the new post office on Market Street, the St. Louis Place project, and one of his premier projects was St. Louis City Center that we had the St. Louis Shopping Mall. And all of that was very instrumental for my brothers and I and for all of the other minority contractors that actually were involved in the MOCAN movement at that time, in which this movement is still very much alive. And the biggest reason is because it gives minority and women-owned businesses the opportunity to shine in the city of St. Louis. As it was spoken from Mr. Musa and from Yafet, as well as Eddie, and I'm on a first-name basis with them all because our family is like that. And I call them family because all of them were actively involved in the MOCAN organization, with my dad being the founder. And with me being a second-generation painting contractor, I was also a union painter growing up. And I also actively participated in a lot of the St. Louis City projects that I just spoke about. The city of St. Louis has a lot of architecture that is very intricate and detailed. This room that we're actually standing in, my dad's painting company actually painted this room several times. And I was one of the painters that actually did some of the fine lattice work that's up there. And the opportunities that we were given through the city of St. Louis is far and few between. You won't find this kind of work in a lot of the cities. And when it comes to the minority community, there's very few of our own people that can actually do that work. With me being a second-generation painting contractor, I'm very forthright on wanting to make sure that the program exists, because if the program is done away with, there's a lot of young men and young women who are actively involved in the trade and would like to be in the business who won't have that opportunity. A lot of the goals that are met, it allows companies like myself, in which I'm the president of Aztec Painting Company, which represents the second generation of my dad's finding. It gives us the opportunity to be able to bid on the St. Louis City work and to actually participate in the St. Louis City work. And unfortunately, if those programs or goals are taken away and set aside, it may be a long time before we can give others the opportunity to be able to be involved in what we're involved in. The programs such as the pre-apprenticeship programs that MOCAN offers, it gives our young people an opportunity to actively stay involved in the trade, and it gives us a real positive way to be able to get out on the job sites and to be able to work on the projects that are actually coming out to bid for the city of St. Louis. So I'm asking you, as a second generation painting contractor, to please make sure that we can keep the program active. Don't do away with the MWBE participation goals because they're desperately needed. Outside of that, as was so eloquently said before I took the podium, is that it would revert back to 50 years of having to try to bring the goals back in place. And since they're already here, we might as well just continue to do what we can to be able to keep everything in place. When my dad passed away back in 2006, it was very honorable for the city of St. Louis to attend his funeral. And Mayor Vincent Shamel was there as well. And they gave my dad 2 plaques on the day of his funeral. And it was very touching to me and my family for them to name the day that my dad passed away as the city of St. Louis Ether Bledsoe Day. And I just wanted to take this time to say thank you for the acknowledgement for that. And please keep the program in place because it's desperately needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis. I love history, so thank you for sharing also about the direct history you have, not just with this room, but with the powerful impact that the program has made over decades here in the city of St. Louis. Thank you for your service.
Our final speaker is David Jackson, Jr.
Mr. Jackson, I need to swear you in. I'm glad you all made it safe.
Yes.
After the mix-up. Okay, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. My name, again, is David Jackson. I'm a small business consultant here in the city of St. Louis in the construction industry. My background, I've been with the construction community now for about 30 years. I had a small company myself that provided carpenters and laborers to work on many St. Louis projects. I also worked with several different general contractors, which gave me a firsthand look as to how they select minority firms. And it's different. I'm sitting in the bid room where some of these general contractors are nervous about giving minority contractors a contract in excess of $500,000. Some of the contracts come in at $1 million, and the general contractor actually calls the minority firm to go over his bid. It is so important. I've heard a few folks say that the hands of the clock is turning back. I don't think so. The hands never moved. 22 years ago, I wrote a piece for the St. Louis American about minority inclusion in St. Louis. And to this date, it's still viable. And I will forward that to you, Madam Chairman, and the rest of the board, so you can see nothing's changed. I would like to ask that you slow the process, Madam Chairman, that you hold another one of these meetings and give contractors an opportunity to come before you. And there's a reason for that. Most minority and women-owned firms here in the city are small mom and pop operations. They do the work. They can't afford to take off. Even if they want to support this, they can't take off. And I think if you slow the process, this room would be filled with contractors of the minority and women-owned industry. I also would like to say, because I'm a plain speak, straightforward guy, the city of St. Louis does not have a minority program. All they have is goals. The legislation that needs to be put should include a program, such as Kansas City. Kansas City MWBE program is geared toward their community development block grant. Only minority and women-owned firms can bid on that work with the city. The plus thing is that the city didn't have to worry about being sued by non-minority companies, simply because the courts clarified that it is a city in-house program. They couldn't sue them. This is the way the city was ensuring that there was inclusion. Detroit does it even better. They've selected a general contractor, White Construction, to be on every one of their city major projects. When you talk about workforce, the only way that you're going to get a minority workforce is hire a minority company. No ifs, buts about it. Caucasian general contractors aren't in a hurry to hire minorities. No idea why, but they're not. And to ensure that you get a minority workforce, you must let minority contracts. This is something that should come across once you put this legislation in because of the workforce. I don't even look at the workforce because it's difficult, because I know minority and women-owned firms are having a hard time participating in the construction community in St. Louis. So why even talk workforce if you can't talk contracts, if you can't talk work? That is what must be done. With the new legislation, hopefully, one of the things that I had talked to at that time was Mayor Slay and Darlene Green. Those two city officials understood minority participation and how it should be administered, especially Darlene Green. I was a member of the TIF Commission for 11 years, simply because I was a member of the Board of Education for 8 years, which gave me a seat on the TIF Commission. At the same time, once the school district lost its accreditation and went over to a special administrative board, that three-person board that came in also appointed me to the TIF Commission for an additional 3 years. That was important because we discussed what you guys put together, and that was community benefits agreements. What happened to it? We don't hear about it. But that is one tool that could be utilized to ensure minority inclusion, both with contracts and both with the workforce. That community benefits agreement, according to the law that this board instituted, is supposed to be inside every development agreement with this city. It's simple. It's plain. You have the tools, we just don't use them. We have the means, we just don't use them. So that's why I'm requesting of you, Madam Chairman, to take a small step back, consider holding another one of these meetings, even if it has to be in the evening. One of the things I was able to accomplish with being on the TIF Commission, a very large project, and the folks were really concerned about eminent domain. And as a TIF commissioner, I was able to get enough votes to move that meeting from 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 at night in this very room, just so we can have an opportunity to hear from those homeowners about eminent domain. They had no idea that eminent domain is only implemented by the alderperson, not the developer, not the mayor. If you read the language, eminent domain is implemented by the alderperson. By moving that meeting, over 1,500 residents showed up because they had an opportunity now to speak. And so that's why I am suggesting and requesting that you, your committee, take a step back, hold another one of these meetings to afford minority contractors and women to come and let you hear their story. It's horrible. It's horrible. As a member of ACA, the African American Business and Contractors Association, we held several protests here at City Hall in SLDC to talk about the non-compliance of MWBE with the St. Louis Development Corporation. We talked about the many firms that went out of business. There's firms that's been out here for years that couldn't survive. They had no help. And we held a mock forum just to show the many firms that have went bellied up because of no compliance. You know, I call myself a youngster in this, like an apprentice. I learned from people like Wally Musa, Eddie Hassan, the old Jack Thomas that used to have the city program, and now the new blood, which is Lafayette. And I've learned over the years that it hasn't changed. It has not moved. When they blocked Highway 70, we thought that was going to be the start of something new. It wasn't. Now is the time. I don't have to tell you that we have a Republican government, and they are definitely involved with, or shall I say, they definitely going to be non-involved with any race program. They're going to do away with it. It's up to the cities to help your own. That's the only thing as a Democrat that I support Donald Trump on. Make America number one. We, minority contractors, women-owned firms, depend on the city to do the right thing, not the state. As you know, the state has already made their move. It's the city that matters. It's the city that can make the difference. What this committee decides to do will stand in place when I'm long and gone. Probably when everyone in this room is gone. But what you do will reflect on thousands of small businesses in this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Hey, Alderwoman, we have two more speakers, one online and one in person. Jeff White is online, and they both need to be sworn in.
Okay. Mr. White and Mr.
Nellums.
Nettles, can you both raise your right hand? Swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll go with Mr. Nettles first. Is it Nettles?
Nellums.
Nettles, okay. Thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for entertaining us. I stand before you coming behind all of these great people, and we spoke about second generation, as Aztec Painting spoke about. I'm a product of a second generation DBE, MBE company here in St. Louis. My father, the past senior chairperson of MOCAN, Tom Nellum Sr., was an instrument in this city for over 40 years. Our company has been in business in St. Louis City for 40 years. We've helped a ton of minorities through this city continue to work, continue to have opportunities, but that is all through these programs that you all have provided. You spoke about history lessons. This building here, right here behind us, that was known as the Kill Center in 1994, my father's dump trucks brought the dirt in and hauled the dirt out that needed to be there. So we've been in and out of St. Louis City doing work for a long time. And I'm afraid if you get rid of these programs, you're going to cut into the work for us. It is paramount that we have these here to be able to be included in the workforce. I'm a product, like I said, of that second generation. I was able to go to college because of the work my father was afforded. I'm able to stand here in front of you, a college graduate, a law school graduate, all of that. No matter all those degrees, you see where I'm at, back here running my family's business in the construction field. It's that important to me, and it's also that important to my children. I want my children to be able to have those same opportunities that I was afforded. I have a fear that words like DEI, MBE, DB are being treated, I'm just going to keep it flat out, as being treated as racism, when really those are opportunities that we need to have afforded to us to be able to work here in this city. It's hard for us to obtain work. It's hard for us to get work, even though goals are stated. But as they've said before, are these goals being monitored the right way? I speak to things as far as the union. A lot of us are small businesses and cannot afford the cost of being that. It feels almost exclusionary when you put in DBE goals and then you come back and tap in with the union on that. It's not that we cannot do the work, you're excluding us from doing that by putting those terms into that. And I think they're well aware of that. It's just something that I feel very passionate about when you speak to what's in St. Louis City. I'm the youngest person in here. If you're going to take away the hope and the dreams of us being in this industry, what do our youth have to look forward to? They need the opportunity to be in these fields. They need to see people who look like them, whether that be me, whether that be a woman, whether it be a Native American, whomever it may be. They need to see people that look like them in the workforce. And if you take these programs away or decrease them, you're increasing the crime or the opportunity for that to go on. We all want to be successful out here, and there's plenty of construction going on in the city of St. Louis for us to all be able to work. I just feel like as a whole, the importance of being able to maintain as a small business is being almost taken away from us if you do away with these programs. It's paramount that we keep the inclusion here. It's paramount that we keep these small businesses going. And that's all that I can ask of you this morning, is to really consider what we have moving forward. I'm 35 years old. As they talk back going, I'll be 36 here soon. I don't want to go back to how times were. We're supposed to be progressively moving forward. We have open doors for different type of communities now. Everybody's moving forward. So I don't see the need of us moving backwards when we're able to show you the work that can be done. All of us have experience here in some of these jobs. We've been able to maintain these things and do them. So all I can ask of you this morning is to please consider keeping these programs open and listen to the plea of all of us who have been before you this morning. That's all that I can ask of you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. White's online.
Thank you for being here, Mr. White. You may proceed.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, good deal. Madam Chair, I want to be brief. I know you're tired and you're ready to go home and get back across that icy road. Thank you for this moment. If you ever heard, if I can bring a smile to someone's face or a laugh to someone's heart, it's a good thing and a good day. And one thing I want to ask you to let me digress just for a hot second, because me and this brother been together since kindergarten. Hello, Mike. How are you doing? Michael Bledsoe and I have been knowing each other for a very long time. So anyway, look, the SLDC program or the MWBE program has been, when it first started, it had teeth. And somewhere along the line, it lost that teeth. And you've heard all these stories today that really kind of covers that. But I'm going to bring out a few points, and I'm a board member of ABCA, African American Business Contractor Association. But I want you to know the very first thing we want to deal with, and Yafet illustrated this stuff very eloquently, as she always do, and that is the monitoring part of it. On far as being certified as an MBE, and far as getting the job, and far as getting paid. When this first came about, you know what I mean? I can remember back in the early 80s where Eddie Hassan was going out there counting boots on the ground and how people was getting paid. Somewhere along the line, that got dropped off. And when it had got dropped off, then it became a haywire thing. It seemed like everybody bit into this thing called good faith effort. And that's kind of like Popeye and Wendy. You know what I mean? You want to say, I tried to do a good job. Can I have a hamburger today? It don't work that way. You can't go to McDonald's and ask for a hamburger. You got to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? When you get done, they first told us the Trino program would make everything fair. If people got the job, they won the job, would nobody get paid unless everybody get paid. The job could not move forward. Somewhere the Trino program got lost. Then they told us about tile. They put this tile on your hard hat, and this tile would require that when a person walked through the gate, the city of St. Louis would know who was on the job, whether you've been white, black, or any other ethnic, race. That got dropped by because of the good faith effort. People bought their way out of it. Make that stop. The monitoring program must be substantial. It must be. The next thing is boots on the ground. We've heard about the union members and this, that, and the other. I'm a union bricklayer, and I'm pretty sure you can see my face. And if you're looking at my face, you can see the water fountain that's over there on the hill. Well, my company built that water fountain. I'm a third generation bricklayer, third generation union bricklayer. You know what I mean? I got nothing against the union. I mean, my family have done very well in the union. But here's the problem I got with the notion of that. For every brother and sister that come from High Hill, Forestdale, Farmington, DeSoto, Sullivan, I got one young man that comes from me from DeSoto. He's 77 miles from my job site. Now, for everyone that comes in town, you guys are the ones that are representing the ones that stay on Hebert, Sullivan, Davison, Lillian. You know what I mean? I can go on with all these streets that I've worked on. You know, I'm one of the most blessed bricklayers you ever meet in your life. I'm 62 years old. How don't I look good? And I can tell you right now, I've never worked 8 miles past that doggone arch. I don't care if it was north, south, east, or west. I've never went more than 8 miles. I've worked in the city all my life. My father worked in the city all his days when he got out of World War II. You know what I mean? Then the third thing I want to say is when you look at payments, and I remember Dory got on there and talked about that payment. ABCA went to SLDC to complain about that. And I want to make sure y'all understand when we sat in there, look at your members. I'm going to take you back like the preachers. Look at your members in there. And which one of y'all can look at each other and say, I can go 30 days without being paid. I can go 60 days without getting paid. Well, we went to SLDC and complained about this. And, you know, like she said, they turned around and said, well, you need to go to the Department of Labor and ask the contractor that's in your program. That's in your program, pay them. Come on. And this was 6 months this woman had not got paid. Who can survive like that? See, what they do to y'all is the developers and the contractors say, well, we can't work with the MBEs. We can't do anything with the MBEs because they don't know how to do business. But what they don't tell you is they don't pay us. They don't tell y'all that. You know what I mean? They just tell you what happens when they don't pay us, that we go out of business. And then last but not least, and this is one that APCA have turned in to the board. I'm not sure, Dave can tell you her name, for president, our rewrite of the MBE program. Now, one of the things we understand is you got boards that meet on the SLDC. And we want that you now make it that MBEs are on that board. You got people that are on the board that don't know how to make payroll, don't know how to bid a job, don't know how to go out here and do any of these things, but they're telling us what to do. That's not fair. You don't ask a truck driver to operate on you. You don't ask a bricklayer to be your accountant. So don't ask these things of us. If let us participate in that decision making. And I will add one more thing before I go. Thomas Nellam once told me, and he's my big brother in Christ. He said, Jeff, if they don't see us out there, then our kids don't know what to do. We must be out there. You hold the line for us. Your constituents are on the streets that I named. Thank you for that time.
Thank you so much, Mr. White. Right. Was that the final? Okay. All right. Okay. I'll just see if any of my colleagues have any. First of all, thanking you all again for being here today, and the weather and people that are online. I know there are many people online. Even if you didn't speak, your presence made the difference today. This was, again, an intentional choice to have this hearing this way, because a lot of times when these kind of, when these kind of challenges or fights need to be had, the more conversations you have where you can't track them, it confuses it. And so we wanted to be able to hold this space so that we can have it on public record. Many of the things that will now, to Mr. Jackson and Mr. Amusa's point, slow down the process and make sure that people's real life experiences are accounted for in whatever happens next. And so with that being said, I want to make sure I give my colleagues time to say any closing remarks. Any of you all, Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Thank you for everyone who came today to speak. I learned a lot and have a lot of things I'm going to do some research on. Thank you so much.
Alderman Browning.
Thank you, everyone who came to speak today. I really appreciate your testimony. It means a lot to us, and I don't have any more questions.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Thank everybody for taking time out of your day to travel in the storm, and even the ones that was virtual, for giving me and my colleagues a lot of information. And hopefully, as the chairwoman always say, these committee is where it happens, and these meetings are live. So hopefully, if any legislation is removed, that the testimony that was taken today, hopefully will be part of that. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you all to make sure that this program continues to be upheld and stronger and better, because I do know the benefit for it. So thank y'all for your time.
Vice Chair Sanye.
I will echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Just thank you all for you all's time. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for arranging this, and I look forward to the work we'll do on this.
All right, and I'll just speak briefly on, well, first, I want to say for Mr. White, I took notes, a lot of notes, but Mr. White, I would never get tired. This is our responsibility. So I know however long it would take, this is necessary. And I want to make sure that everyone is clear for the record that I confidently speak for myself, and I pray I speak for my colleagues, that no one wants to get rid of, take away, stop, water down any kind of programming that we know has been not only in some ways more impactful than others, but at the same time have the gains that Mr. Amusa spoke about. So I don't know where that narrative, I hope that we can stop that narrative here today and know that the people that are in place here, again, speaking confidently for myself and praying for my colleagues today, that none of us are in this position to do that. We know that sometimes those false narratives are used to create division and the dysfunction in the process, and it's used a lot, and it's heartbreaking, especially in, again, things that are this important. We know that that's why we took the time today to elevate and escalate this, and here learn that most, if not some of the fixes, they don't have to be done legislatively. They can be done administratively. They can be done by a choice, right? About people that are in position right now as we're sitting here today. So we know, we understand about right wing, but we know that ain't the only people we need to watch, especially in work like this. There are people that are definitely not textbook right wing, but they're definitely carrying on in the same practices. So I know that we want to be here to listen. And if we can't have the evening hearing, if it was up to us, many of us, I'm sure we would, but there is here, speaking of capacity, there's a capacity issue sometimes of us having a evening meeting. So that's why the hybrid issue is such a blessing in space now, because even if you can't come in and speak in person, you can come online and speak. You also can leave written testimony. And many of us do take the time to read all of it. And I'm not talking about read it when it's put in front of us. We read it prior to, we do our research, we do the history of it. And that's why we take pride in being able to be here to advocate. So there is no, I know Mr. Jackson talked about slowing the process, and I said maybe this might be slowing the process, but as we all know, a lot of the processes in the city of St. Louis are already slow. So we don't want to forfeit the work that can be done, with some of the misnomers that can go on with slowing the process. The process is, we talk about it. This is part of the process here in committee. We will have more of these, clearly, because there's a need and to fill that. And so please be open and ready whenever. You don't have to wait for a meeting to talk to us, but this again is a space it's recorded, it's aired, and we can use it not only if we need to fight down here, but if we need to fight somewhere else. Nobody is scared of that, like somebody said earlier about the law, about somebody threatening to sue, right? I mean, we all have our own ways to be able to fight back. And this being recorded and aired and live and captured and being able to be used and replayed is part of the tools that we can use. Can't fight for something that somebody can say they don't need. We clearly see there is a need here today. So thank you all for being here. I know that the organizations are meeting. I know there's some upcoming meetings where I've been asked to speak at, and others have been asked to speak at. And so we will continue to first and foremost listen. And secondly, then take that again into whatever pathway we take to make this process greater and show the sign of the city of St. Louis. Set the tone of the city of St. Louis, at least while people are here that know the need for it. So again, thank you all for being here today. I know we had a lot of written testimony, so Madam Clerk, we know that they're all in the drive, the ones that were submitted today for today's meeting. And again, this written testimony was just on the process and the current policies and the programming that's in the city of St. Louis, not on any specific piece of legislation, but just to get us in the mode of getting ready for forthcoming, if any, forthcoming legislation. There was no, is she still on? Okay. Okay, so is she still on? We still need to excuse a member, and we still have some business. Is she still, is Rod, Clerk Rod? Okay, Mr. Clerk, can I move forward through the agenda with you? Okay. Nobody has raised their hand or anything for any announcements. We do need to excuse Alderman Cone for necessary absence. Okay, And with that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, previous roll.
It was moved by Alderwoman Slicer and seconded by Vice Chair Sanye with a call for previous roll. So thank you. We are adjourned. Everyone have a blessed day.